And when the Prophet ﷺ took the companions on the hijrah from Mecca to Medina, when they were forced out of their homes, he had with him this group of muhajireen who left behind all of their belongings, all of their social comforts, economic comforts, everything that they had. They left behind their families, and they were suddenly in this new land of Medina. That was new to them. Yes, for us, Mecca and Medina sound like the same thing, but back then this was a different world in many ways. And when the Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina, the first thing that he did was he built a masjid. He established a house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one that we hope this will be in the footsteps of, that this house of Allah will emulate the house of Allah that was built by our beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But right after building the masjid, the first thing that he did was he went to the house of Amr ibn al-As, and he gathered 90 of the muhajireen and the ansar, and he established the foundational institution that the Muslim ummah will be built on, and that is the institution of mu'akha, where he brought into brotherhood and sisterhood the muhajireen and the ansar. And I want you to take a moment to appreciate what this may mean, because all of us, we've heard of this. But think about history, think about human history, think about the relationships between people. How is it that the Prophet ﷺ was able to bring a people from one land into another land, and in a moment's notice he connected them in the most intimate and the most interconnected fashion? Something that is truly profound, where he said to one muhajir, "This is your brother from the ansar," and he said from one ansar, "This is your brother from the muhajireen." And so how did they react to this? Allah tells us in the Quran that those وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. Allah praises the Ansar in the Quran, and He says that those from the Ansar who were there, believers, they embraced and they loved the Muhajireen that came towards them. And they had no need for what Allah had given the Muhajireen. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. And they preferred the Muhajireen over themselves, even if they had hardship. What do we think that allowed human beings to act in that way, other than the mercy and the grace and the submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It is by the beauty of Allah and by the mercy of Allah that these hearts were transformed in that way. And the only way the human heart can be transformed in such a profound way is in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.